Hello and welcome back to the Perth to Paisley episode number 210. And as we said last time, for the next 2 weeks, Adam is in Canada. So I've drafted in help, and this week it is the help that we seem to just invariably turn to at all points of the season. Richard Cobb is back on the show. Richard, since you were last here, Hearts have had a lot of change in terms of multiple managers, new benefactors. We're good now, and you've had a lot of change in your personal life in terms of, I would say, probably a bit more important in terms of being a dad now and moving country. Are you happier having a daughter, or that Hearts are now very good?
I feel like the two could be connected. I feel like she hasn't really seen any real defeats yet. I mean, she hasn't really seen anything yet because I don't even know if she can open her eyes fully. I mean, she can, but I don't know. Are they working? I don't know. But like, I feel like St. Mirren aside, like it's been going well so far. So yeah, I mean, obviously the big match coming up, which I guess we'll probably talk about at some point.
Yep.
But fingers crossed, all going fine. And I think it just makes things easier, doesn't it? I feel like it's sort of weekends would be. I mean, it's quite stressful, really. It's kind of got to that. She's 12 weeks now, so I feel like I haven't got the hang of it. But it's definitely less sort of like, let's look at the instruction manual now. It's kind of a bit like, right, it's a bit, we know what we're doing. So I feel like added with a Heart, like if Hearts weren't performing, if we were in like Aberdeen shoes, then like I don't think I wouldn't be on this anyway. So. Yeah, no, all roses. So yeah,
good. I'm very glad. It's funny because my dad said the same thing. My dad, born in 1968, for 30 years watched Hearts do pretty much nothing, and then August 1997, he has his first son. 9 months later, basically, we won a cup, and he realised that all he had to do was start having kids before Hearts were going to be good. So I think you are now in that position.
You're 28.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
When did I start coming on this? This feels
no, exactly. It's a horrible thought. So yeah, basically, if we win the Scottish Cup this season, it's been your fault that we've not won it the last few. You just had to have kids.
I mean, singular so far.
Well, if we win the cup this year, it has to keep happening. Sorry, but you've got to just put the fan base and the football club generally ahead of you. So, as we say, since you've last been on, a lot has changed within Hearts because we've got, well, since you were last on, we've had three managers technically because we had Critchley, then Fox as interim, and now McInnes. Tony Bloom has arrived at Tynecastle. Jamestown has arrived at Tynecastle. What have you made generally to both the start of the season and the kind of involvement of Tony Bloom, Jamestown, and all that stuff generally?
It's all like, again, obviously aware of 6 games in or whatever, but it's all kind of come together quite, on the face of it, seamlessly, almost to the same extent as it came together in our first championship season under Robbie Nielsen. It almost felt like, hold on, how much has been happening behind the scenes? Because this seems to be going kind of too well. So, like, from that point of view, I'm slightly, I'd say suspicious, but also I feel like, things are kind of aligning a little bit in the terms of, we're getting decisions against, like, the old firm. That's going, well, one half so far. And, like, that went well. And it's just things like we're getting a bit of luck, like late winner against Livingston. And it's just all kind of like, it's the excitement's there, but it's the same momentum that, albeit I think we're playing better football, that Aberdeen maybe, again, to make that comparison, we're having last season, and like people are looking like enviously at them after 5-6 games and just thinking, well, they've not been that good. How are they doing that? But I feel that although we maybe didn't start like it took us a little while to get into sort of second, third gear, I think now that we're seeing the players coming through, there seems to be good mood in the camp. We're seeing Shankland obviously doing well enough to be scoring most weeks, and like taking up some cracking efforts as well, and obviously not quite doing enough to get in the Scotland team, which is baffling. But I mean, all the better for us, because I think I'm at the point now where I feel like, actually, do any of them need to go? Like, can we at this point, I'm like, Craig Gordon, that's fine, because I mean, at this point, we're like, is he going to be on the bench? Is he going to be starting?
Yeah.
Like, how's that even going to pan out? So it's like, yeah, you can have him, but like, don't touch anyone else, sort of thing. So I can't remember your question, but yeah, no, it's been good, and it's surpassed expectations so far. But I could, like, being a Hearts fan, you can't really count the chickens, can you? Yeah. Like, there's too many. Like, all the noise seems to be coming from everyone else. They always do it. They like had the Scottish Football Podcast on a couple of weeks ago. They're like, no, they can't split the Old Firm. The one from yesterday, they're like, yeah, they can. And I'm like, you just stop making me dream. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm happy being disappointed. So yeah. What are your thoughts? Can I ask questions on this?
Of course you can. You're now our most regular guest. You can just take over hosting duties. It's fine. But listen, you're saying there about the kind of natural pessimism within Hearts fans. I was fully convinced that we'd gone to Ibrox, won, and we were going to get beat off Falkirk at home, because it would have just been the most us thing possible.
I've got the tweet.
Right. The tweet that everybody got really annoyed at. You can read it out.
Okay, so this was actually a week ago today. We could absolutely get beat off Falkirk this weekend. It does not matter. That Hibs result is fucking hilarious. And that was done obviously last Tuesday off the back of the 2-2.
Yep.
I know what you were getting at, but I could, like, fair play that people called you out on it, and it's just the same that you're a shite bag and you've got a closed account, and not everybody can see that. Yeah. But I think if that was fully open, then you
that would have been it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And that is why I have a private account, because I can say my stupid opinions to you and then you can share them. But my point with that was just the way Hibs ended up dropping points against Falkirk was objectively funny. So it would have been objectively funny even if we'd then dropped points. But we didn't, because we're great now, and we'll get into that in a wee minute. But yeah, I was very much excited about Jamestown. I'm that, as we say in the podcast, I'm that very boring person that likes stats and analysis and analytics and all that kind of stuff. So when we were linked with this, it was like, this is going to be the best thing ever. But as Adam kept saying, it's going to not work eventually. And if it was going to not work, it would be at us, because it would be the most us thing. And when McInnes was appointed, there was a few eyebrows raised in terms of, okay, you've got these multi-millions from Tony Bloom, you've got this analytical data that can find you guys from Papua New Guinea to be incredible, but you've went with the guy along the road. What was your opinion when we got McInnes, and how much of it has changed since we've been this good?
I was happy just because I felt it signalled stability, really, which I feel like certainly the noise is coming from a few, like, obviously, like when you're sort of talking, when Neil's going to come back, or when Naismith was sort of made permanent, you'd struggle to find a managerial appointment that was universally accepted.
Yeah.
And I felt this was almost as close to that version that everybody could agree on, because I mean, it's hard because a lot of the people that Hearts get linked with, maybe people haven't heard of, but then will go on to do good things. Like, remember, folk was still going on about, was it Hogmo or whatever his name was? Like,
Hogmo.
What's happened to him now? People were like, oh, he could have done brilliantly.
True.
But I'm like, there's so many of examples of that not being.
Let's find out what Hogmo did, because I genuinely don't even know, because it was like, oh yeah, he's definitely going to do things. He's not doing anything. He's unemployed. Yep, he was last manager of Molde, and he lasted 6 games.
Good. So yeah, it could have been this. If we got him, that could have been after the Falkirk game. That could have been him. So, like, I think it made sense. I think it's, people are like, oh, like, if you'd, that's the managerial appointment you should have made before. I kind of disagree, because I think it all, so far, it's aligned well, that it's this new vision that's been sold on. There's things coming through, like the big test, I think, was keeping Shanklin, because obviously people still had like knives out for him basically after. Like, there's going to be one thing that Hearts fans point to, like if something goes wrong, and with Nielsen it was always the 2-2 against Hibs and then getting beat, for them to go on and win the Scottish Cup. They could never forgive him for that. And I feel with Shankland, it was always going to be the sort of the blasting over the bar in Bruges, which like obviously that was a bad one. But then I think it was almost that making him seem valued and sort of being a central point to the McInnes vision, I guess. And I think that's really helped us, because I think if you had a manager that you're not quite sure on, maybe doesn't have a proven track record, then I think it's a lot harder to sort of get the buy-in from players to sort of want to be part of it, really. So I think he's done that well. I think what's maybe going to be the best test, like the next test, is going to be, we've got such a pool of players that you're sort of looking at it. I mean, today, they beat Falkirk 6-0 in a behind closed doors match. I just see people like sort of Kabangu, your Kabor, Magnuson as well, and I'm like Kajota, and like I feel that it's going to be hard for them to get a run to sort of prove themselves, because everyone else is doing so well ahead of them, and like that's, it's great to have that, but you want to work out well that you can sort of bring these players in, and they're not just going to, like, they're going to be up to speed. So I think it makes sense that we're having quite a lot of these games to try and bring them up to speed. And I think McInnes is, well aware of that. But again, early doors, but I think it's impressive. And I think the fact that you can go and not be overly negative at Ibrox, and you can actually say, you can point to, because so often we've been like, oh, Rangers aren't in form, like that cup final we got beat by them in after they'd played 120 minutes in Europe. You're thinking like, this is the time, and it's it was kind of like close but no cigar sort of thing. And again, it's one of them, you don't want to give opposition teams respect, and I think McInnes, out of a lot of managers, is absolutely not going to be giving anyone respect.
100%. And speaking about everyone, we do our traditional around the grounds, but again, it's going to be a wee bit different. I'm going to run through the scores, but I just kind of want to get your thoughts on the league generally, because I've not seen as many opinions on the league this season as I have last season that compared quality as much. There seems to be discussions about, is the league weaker than it has been in a long time, or is it actually a better quality league due to the fact there's so many draws? And on that, at the weekend, it was actually the first weekend since the season started where there wasn't a single draw in the entirety of the Scottish top flight. Celtic with the exception, because the most us thing ever is that Hibs get a huge point at Parkhead. It is the point that takes us top of the league. So, and as the Hearts Stadium announcer was very quick to mention at full time, but kind of just trying to ignore the fact it was Hibs who had benefited, Celtic dropped points 0-0 at Parkhead. Dundee United, in a kind of shock lost at home 2-0 to Kilmarnock. Obviously, our game happened, which we'll get into. St Mirren continued just being quite solid as they beat Dundee. And the main two games that were the talking point were Aberdeen looked on track to get their second point of the season, but an absolute just shit show in the final 4 minutes of additional time from Dimitar Mitov, and the general Aberdeen defence allowed Motherwell to win 2-0 to get their first win of the season. And then the next day, the only game, Rangers finally won a game of football with also a 90th plus minute winner against Livingston. So the league generally has been spoken about, I think, even out with Scottish football a bit more because of how underperforming Rangers are, and Celtic not being just immediately top of the league. What have you thought about it this season? Have you bought into like the Motherwell thing of like, they look great, and the Aberdeen aspect of just, this is the funniest thing ever? What has been your thoughts on the top flight so far this season?
I think normally there's a dark horse there, and I think almost, as you mentioned, it could be St Mirren. If you look at them being third, it's almost like, all right, because I can't, off the top of my head, I've got to be honest, I can't remember any of the results, apart from the one at the weekend. I'm thinking that, I'm like, all right, okay, they've done quite well. And a lot of the focus, I guess, was on Motherwell, because obviously they put 3 past us. And, they did look really good, but there was something that wasn't quite connecting with them. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there'll be people that are a lot more sort of in tune with what that means. And obviously if they're kind of like, well, that's, they're building towards something. But I mean, you've got to get points on the board. But I think that obviously, if they've not been firing on all cylinders yet, they're still sitting fourth. It's pretty good for them, because to be honest, there's not much more they could be doing really right now. Like, realistically, where would you see Motherwell sitting? So I think they're almost, definitely overperforming them. But it's hard because I'm even looking at this thinking like Dundee are ninth. And I think that was only like obviously from there. Was that the late? Was it Livingston? They got a late the penalty or the winner against, and it was just very funny because it meant the Rangers were 11th back then.
Yeah,
but again, it was sort of it was sort of false leagues a little bit. It looked a little bit for a while like a Football Manager league.
Yes,
and it's weird because like there's a lot of congestion, but I think normally like what we've struggled with and what's been quite hard in the league is that you've been having teams that are like they've been wrapping up a lot of wins, so you're sort of looking at the situation and you're like, oh, how are they so far ahead? Like it took Hearts forever to get into the top 6 last season, albeit we started our charge at the wrong time, but it was one of them. You're like constantly sitting 7th. It was just getting really frustrating. Whereas you're looking at this and like with what Hearts on 16 and the Celtic 14 and down to sort of 9, which is pretty like quite a big gap, really.
Yeah, there's an immediate drop off.
And I think even with like Dundee United getting beat at home and stuff, and you can't really rely on them either. So it's very hot and cold, but really enjoyable. I think I'd have to say. I think like I've very much enjoyed this sort of the chaotic nature of it. Whether it be obviously like Hibs sort of shipping a couple of goals here or there and stuff, that's been pretty funny, but also just the kind of gung-ho approach from some teams that has just been a sort of like you really don't know what you're going to get. Like who'd have thought that Dundee would have got a point off Rangers? Like and to the point that they were disappointed with that as well. So yeah,
it's just the main talking point is obviously Rangers and Aberdeen, because Aberdeen just are in this weird flux state where what do you do with Jimmy Tulane? Because even now I see so many of their fans who are fully behind them, and it is just entirely down to one game. But of course it's entirely down to one game. We would probably be the exact same. And then on the flip side, it's almost the opposite for Rangers, where it just seems every game is a crisis point. Every game is a disaster. As we currently speak, we are 15 points clear of Aberdeen, and I think 9 clear of Rangers. Do you, obviously, as you've said, Scottish Football Podcast immediately goes, oh, now, yeah, Hearts can split the Old Firm, and Aberdeen, that's it, they're dead and buried. Do you think, for example, that is it? Aberdeen will now not catch us, regardless of what happens, regardless if they keep Tulane, and likewise, do you think the Rangers situation is just Russell Martin's bad, so that's why they're doing badly? Or do you think it's a much bigger issue?
I think so. For the Aberdeen thing, I think I even thought, I mean, to be honest, it's not just been the season, has it? Like somebody was saying, was on the Scottish Football Podcast, they said that in the however many games, Aberdeen were, I think, 9 points or 6 or 9 points off what St Johnstone amassed in the same amount of games, and obviously they got relegated.
Okay.
And it's like I wish I could articulate that better, but yeah, check out the one from like the weekend, and I think like that's been bad for a while, and very much it has been probably again a direct quote lifted from them. Is the cup win did paper over the cracks, and it's just been confusing because it's all like, oh, you've got to buy into this, but I'm like, I'm not getting it, because at some point you've just got to put a good team on that'll win. And like I think I don't know why they're struggling, but I'm seeing like they brought that guy in, the Swedish player
Carlson.
Yeah, and they thought he was going to light the league up, but it just reminds me of like Sholis. It's like we're getting this, but it's like this is a bad time. Like this isn't going to make the team better. And it's like there's excitement there, but it's also it's the wrong time. The same with how they thought. Again, this could come back to bite me, but it probably won't, given the predicament. Getting this bit in, because they were like, oh yeah, that's like, but anytime you've seen him under pressure, obviously you see him miss a penalty against Hearts in the semi-final when he was at Hibs, and you've like, I don't think he's a player that like he needs confidence to be doing well, and like, you'll be like, it's not looking good for them, and I'm loving it, purely because it's like they're the whole like they invent a rivalry. I'm like, well, you can't help it. I think any team that are aiming for like the best of the rest, really, like whether it's Aberdeen, Hibs, Hearts, like you're obviously going to want to sort of batter them at every opportunity. And I think it's just that level of like just they would do the exact same if we were in their predicament, and they have. So, take the medicine.
Yeah,
really. 100%. And as for Rangers, I think it was a weird one at the weekend because I was almost. It's going to sound dreadful, and like if this comes back to bite me, fair enough. But I was almost relieved when they got a winner because I thought that's that's slight more credit in the bank for 100%. Russell Martin. Because I thought they're getting sacked, and I was just like, it's too early for them to suddenly find form. But then I'm like, if they can keep this up with the unconvincing, like a victory every sort of 3 or 4 games, I'm like, it's not that bad. Like, it's just. I would just worry if they got somebody good in and they suddenly just like put a rocket up them. Whereas I feel like I can't see that changing anytime soon. So, but I feel like I don't like they're not going to be as bad. Aberdeen, I think, are the ones that are struggling more. I think Rangers are, it's just the expectations of supporters that they're thinking, right, we need to be, this is where we need to be, we need to challenge Celtic. We've chucked it already. And I think in a way, it could be damage limitation for Rangers. It's a little bit like they're not going to win the league purely because like they're not dropping 7 or 9 points. I don't like. I mean, it's going to be a lot for Celtic to drop that much, albeit they've not started very well. But I can't see Rangers making up that swing already. And I'm not talking about catching Hearts and stuff at the moment because it's obviously. Like the past would tell you that it's daft to dream. It's also it's like, it's good, but this is coming from somebody who, when we beat Celtic 4-0, when we broke the streak at 3-0, I was a bit like, how long have we got left? And it's one that you're just sort of expecting, like you're almost like mapping out, right, how's this going to happen? Like a Sherlock Holmes style approach of they're going to get this and that's going to happen, and then they'll get a penalty here. And, it's just coming back to that mentality of just like, we'll probably end up disappointed being Hearts fans, but enjoying it as much as we can as well. So,
well, enjoying it as much as we can was definitely the approach on Saturday because Falkirk came to Tynecastle, and if you listen to our last episode, Adam predicted us to win 5-0, and the general sentiment did seem to be, this is not the Hearts of old where we would slip up. The pessimist in me thought there would be, but generally, it felt like this is actually going to go quite well. An aspect of that, I think, is the way Falkirk play. You said it yourself, teams have been surprisingly just kind of going for it, and that is very much John McGlynn's style. He's not changed that at all since coming up, and it's really worked for him in some games, and I feel like this was an example of it not working. But I will say for listeners, Richard he has moved back up here, but he was down seeing Oasis during the entire game. So he's seen the highlights, but we're not going to do the traditional like going through minute by minute aspect of it because it would make no sense. Also, that's why I'm wearing a Richard Ashcroft top to try and feel you vaguely at home here. But we were just really good. It was Derek McInnes called it the most complete performance he'd seen as Hearts manager. We will get into obviously individuals within it, but generally, from what you've seen and what you've heard, do you think we could have really played much better?
I mean, we beat them 6-0 behind closed doors today, so I mean...
true, you threw it. They've fucked me there. They've absolutely knackered.
But that's 9-0 on aggregate.
Wow.
But I don't know. I think it was one of them. It was safe, and I think by the sound of things, we had an eye on the derby as well. That it was done and dusted pretty quickly, 3-0 just after half time, and it's very hard to get a signal after that. It was particularly hard getting signal for the Aberdeen Motherwell game, which was I had to get my wife's phone to go on live score so I could laugh very loudly. But I think from it never sounded. I think. They never sounded at risk, which I think, if you look at previous seasons, if it's been sort of 1-0 or sort of like, 1-0, 2-1 or something like that, it's always been the kind of, what's going to happen? Is there going to be any like keeper mistakes or whatever? And I think, to be honest, the keeper we've got at the moment, I don't want to mispronounce his name. I know like Sky Sports is like Shvalov. I'm like, Swallow. Right, let's pick your pronunciation. But yeah. It doesn't sound like, I don't know how much he's been tested. Like, was he tested much in the game?
Not at all. There was literally the first minute there, Miller had a chance and he just kind of like calmly caught the ball. And for the remaining 89, I literally said that to my dad. He's played 2 games. 90 minutes in both, and I have no idea if he's going to be good for us because he's had nothing to do.
Do you know what? I almost felt the same. I think we went on this mad streak like a good few years ago. I can't remember. It was 10 games without conceding. Then I think Motherwell got a goal right at the end, and it was when what's his name had it, and I forgot it. Who's the guy that went to Sunderland? Goalkeeper
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin. It was with him. It was almost like I don't know if I could tell you how good a goalkeeper he was. I just thought, safe. You're kind of like, that's fine. Like, and I can't remember an awful lot about him being at Hearts other than like, yeah, it seems fine. Like, yeah. And with the new goalkeeper, I sort of think, I don't know if it's just not been tested, but there seems something quite calming about it.
Yeah.
And obviously, he'll drop a clanger now on Saturday.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, yeah, I think it's obviously from that. I think because we're getting so many goals as well, and from sort of different positions, and I think that's just making it a lot easier. So it's breeding confidence all across the pitch, really.
Definitely. And let's just not beat around the bush. Let's get into the talking point that everybody wants. Alexandros Kizaridis started. It was the exact same team actually that started at Ibrox. Harry Milne was also playing right mid, even though he's just been put in like a quite super scoreboard team at left back because they've clearly just seen Harry Milne, he's a left back. We'll just say he was at left back. So it meant that Milne was on the right and Kizaridis was on the left. It was the first time in the league he started a game at Tynecastle. And there's been some chat about him being like, oh, is he better as an impact sub? But then he started really well against Rangers and then he kind of fell out of the game. I feel like Saturday was the embodiment of Kizaridis. He obviously gets 2 goal contributions, one, the assist from the corner that we'll get to. But, I mean, is that just goal of the season?
I mean, there's so many elements that you like this. It's the sort of thing the magic's obviously at the end, but even the bit where he sort of drags it back and then turns to get the ball, then I'm like, even that's going to get underplayed for how good that move was. Yeah. But I feel like caught it so well, and I've not seen a goal scored so good at that end since I put the ball in the net there back in May. So I feel like, yeah, that's definitely the best goal I've seen. And obviously, because there was no video proof of my 40-yard screamer, then we're going to have to just say that could be the best goal. But I think even then, like it shows how good that goal was. That Shankland's was like, yeah, low drive, but I'm like, he absolutely battered it. Like such a good goal. It was just like a kind of like, the power, like the stats up on FIFA, just like bang, batter it into the bottom left corner, and I need like even the, even with the header and stuff. I guess so. I'm jumping ahead here, but I think like the whole like the set pieces and stuff as well, and just even like. There's that many good goals that you're sort of like, I wouldn't put it past us that just score a better goal this even like even against Hibs. I don't know, but
please, I will happily accept that if we do it against Hibs. But like the Kizaridis one especially, it's the fact that he places it. He uses the side of his foot, but he gets the power as if he's put his laces through it. And I saw McInnes after the game, where some people might say this is a dig at Kizaridis, but he definitely doesn't mean it as that. Where he was like, some players need to be told they're good. Some players need to be given belief because you can see that they're great, but they have an element in their brain where the confidence plays and stuff like that. He was like, I don't think anybody's ever had to tell Kizzy that he's good because he just kind of goes, no, yeah, I am good. Even his goal, well, not just his goal, his cameo against Livingston that you mentioned, his post-match interview, he just went, yeah, I told Shankland to give me it because I know I'll score. And obviously, last season with Kenny Vargas, we've had Hearts players say similar things and similar aspects of their own quality that maybe haven't been the same level. However, with Kizaridis, it does feel like he goes, I'm probably better than this league, so I'm just going to be class when I'm in it. And we never get players like that, ever.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of them already. Like I was like, my wife's dad was in the house earlier today. I was like, yeah, we're probably going to lose him pretty like soon. And that's not from a sort of like, that's almost from like, we've done well to have him, and it's it's that whole thing of, oh, but if you build a team, but I'm like, I'm under no illusions that there's a price tag on everybody at the football club at the moment, and the way he's going, it's going to be should be a lofty price tag, you'd imagine. So. All for it, and I think it's it's just a bit of a joy that we've got a player like him. So I'm all for it. And even then, it's sort of like it makes you look at other players. You're like, oh, Braga's not scored in a few weeks. Like, what is everything fine? Like, what's happening? And you're sort of like, and he's still obviously like playing really well as well. So it's just this the sort of thing. You're just like, it's because we're getting more from different places. Like even Halkett, popping up with goals as well. It's just like, it's. I feel there's a bit of excitement. There's a bit of a players have got something to prove as well. So,
Well, on specifically that aspect, and it is interesting, and I did see someone say it over the last couple of days, and I apologise that I can't remember who, that it is interesting that Shankland has got 11 goal contributions in 10 games, 8 of which are goals. But he's not really getting the headlines as he has been in the previous seasons. And I think that has been a massive positive for him, because coming out of that game, as you say, it's like his goal is so good. I only really feel Shankland can score it in that way. It's funny because you'll have missed this, but the aspect that it's a goal kick. It's a goal kick, and Falkirk try and play it from the back, and Shankland bodies the guy and hits it really hard. And it's entirely out of anger, because the reason Falkirk had a goal kick is because Milne fucked a pass to him and he spent ages shouting at him. And then when you watch the goal back, he just turns and shouts at Milne for the entire time instead of celebrating. And I feel like you can just tell I don't know if point to prove is maybe the right term, but you feel like he's thinking, right, I've had a lot of doubters after last season. Mitigating circumstances, if you want to say, he would probably turn around and go, I wasn't used properly. But regardless if he wasn't used properly, he still had a poor season, a very poor season by his own standards. It's just a relief that we no longer feel like Lawrence Shankland FC, and if he doesn't turn up, then we're knackered.
Yeah. I think that's for him. It's a lot of pressure, particularly when it's like if we're in form, fine, and like I feel like if there's a few games he doesn't turn up in, but then he'll be there in other ones. But there was so much would have been that swim around his head. There would have been the whole transfer stuff, and like the way we went out of Europe. I think if you're captain as well, there's obviously that added pressure that you're thinking, right, well, it's I'm probably going to get the blame for this or for a portion of it. And then you'd just be looking at like I don't want to slag the other what we had last season off, but if you're looking at Cabango and Wilson were the main two who we'd sort of had that we could be like, right, we can rely on them. If not, they weren't prolific, and it was the sort of thing of the expectation was like, right, if they're not chipping in, we can't really afford to drop Shankland. And it's the sort of thing now, I think, like it's working in a system because you've got people in the engine room, you've got people that can change games, whether it be from the start, whether it be from bringing off the bench as well. So it is a kind of it's creating opportunities, which is creating a lot for Shankland as well. That even seeing him, like, even the body language you could see after when he missed the penalty against Rangers, I think last season, head would have been down, hand on hips maybe, but it's actually like, no, I'll follow this up. And to actually get the goal there, it's like that's been the work that he's put that in. And I think all the better for it. And I think it's, from his point of view, I think it's great for him, because I think it's there were so many people ready to point the finger at him, me included. And like, I guess if Hearts drop like the first game that we lose this season, they'll be like, oh, see, it's bubbles burst and stuff. It was the same with Shankland didn't perform well last season, therefore it's he was sort of 2-season wonder sort of thing, and it's he's had that plague in his whole career. Whereas I think now, obviously being the top SPFL goal scorer, that as well, then he's that record's to his name, and he's achieved a lot at Hearts, and he's still got a lot you can achieve at Hearts.
Definitely, and I do feel like this is happening a lot as the weeks go on. So I don't want it to happen with us, where all the attention is just on the forward line of Hearts. But it just feels like we, as you said, with Schwolo and the general back line, there's a calmness that definitely wasn't there last season. And even at the start of this season, with Xander in goals, it clearly wasn't there because of the amount of cheap goals. I did find it interesting from McInnes's comments after the game, where he was asked about the fact that his new keeper hadn't really been tested. And instead of what I expected him to do and use it as an opportunity to kind of go, yeah, but the whole defensive unit is now better, so that's a positive for us that we're cutting off chances. He made a point to kind of say, yeah, but we now have a situation where we're not conceding cheap goals, and I do kind of feel like that was not aimed at Clark, but I definitely feel it was an aspect of, yeah, we've now got a big German guy in the back of the net who's probably going to be all right most of the time. And listen, as you mentioned, the Scotland squad came out today, and a big aspect was Halkett and Finlay not selected. I am delighted, as you said, because I just think to me that just adds unnecessary injury risk for two of our best players. But I remember in the past when you've been on this show speaking about, I think this is the longest run Craig Halkett has had in the team when you've been on the show, because every single time you've been on, we've spoken about the fact of either we miss Craig Halkett or, oh yeah, we've got Halkett back, but he's coming back from fitness. It feels like this is the first time we're seeing 2018 Craig Halkett again. And he is just, I mean, he's been pretty much flawless, even if you take away his goals.
Was there not talk of him going? I mean, I don't know if it's like, was there not talk of him going elsewhere, like Falkirk,
Yeah.
St Mirren or something like that?
100%.
As well.
Yeah.
And I think that's the like. I don't know. I don't know the latest with it. Is that McCarthy? He's come back from injury, hasn't he? He's just sort of not.
Yeah.
He's kind of in and around the bench. It's a hard one because it's even with him and with Kingsley, it's that whole like people are still ready to retire people and sort of be like, oh, they've lost it, they've not got it. But again, so much of it's like I think with older players as well, they don't factor in sort of the mental side as well, and it's whether it's if you're having a run of like injuries or if if the team's not performing as well, then they instantly just point to age. And I think it's like with him, I think he has been consistent, and I think like it's one of them. It's just it's helping the team, but it's also helping having somebody like Finlay there as well, and that they can just be like play off each other and sort of mop up after each other as well. But it's realizing there'll be times, obviously it's not gonna. There'll be times where they're caught out or it's not gone that well. I guess you could probably point like Motherwell was a big one of that. But at the same time, it's they prove themselves after again, and I think they've got enough credit in the bank really that they've done enough for Hearts that it should be a case of looking at the positives and not just thinking like when are they going to next slip up.
Yeah, definitely. Now, obviously 3-0, another clean sheet, a very, very important result that, as I say, does take us top of the week going into the first Edinburgh Derby of the season. Now, a fun fact that I can't get out of my head is that Derek McInnes has never in his career lost as a manager to Hibs at home across St Johnstone, Aberdeen and Kilmarnock. He's played, I think, 36 games and hasn't lost one of them. So if his first loss to Hibs at home is an Edinburgh Derby, that would be very hard. But Hibs are in a bit of a weird place where, as the start of the season has gone on, I've seen a lot of Hearts fans say they were like the media darlings. I don't know if it's necessarily that far, but there was a lot of people talking them up, understandably, considering the season they had last season. Europe was a very Hibs European trip where they seem to be doing quite well, but then knackering it in the very literally last seconds in multiple ties. So they end up coming completely out of Europe. Domestically in the league, they are one of 3 teams that are still unbeaten. 4 teams, sorry, because Motherwell is still unbeaten. But they've only won 1 game. They are just one of the other teams that keep drawing. They are on a 1 win in 10. However, they've only lost 2 in 28 in the league. So I have no idea what we're going to get from Hibs. What do you think we're going to get from Hibs this weekend?
I mean, we could probably cut out a bit of this silence. I haven't even like. I don't know. It's an odd one because you sort of think like, it's natural to go in a little bit cautious about it because it's always like any team that go in expecting to win, could sort of jump back at them. But I sort of feel I'm like if you can go to like I'm going to talk about Hearts again for a second on a Hearts podcast, I imagine.
Yeah,
but like, if you can go to Ibrox and not really have any fear, then I don't see why you would have any fear playing Hibs at home. So I sort of think it's like they'll set up the usual sort of try frustrate, get us on the break and stuff like that, and sort of like rely on Boyle to try and stay on his feet.
Yeah.
Or get Boyle to hit a 1 in a million shot. Like I just don't think they're very good. Like, and it's like the shades to like there's so many comparisons I'm going to make to other teams, and I think it's just like it's just the sort of the patterns. But I think there's so much I can point to Gray almost having like a Naismith style approach, or like the old Aberdeen manager, like when it's just that sort of sense of like, right, promising, has done enough, but then you might just start getting people frustrated, and I sort of feel like that's he's done well enough in derbies that it's not going to be hanging on this result. But if Hibs get beat, then I think that there is a bit of ground between us now, so then that'll start frustrating, as much as it's kind of like they've had Europe and like that was exciting for them. It started the frustration, or they'll start looking at the fact I think, as I said a week or two back, they're at 3 cup competitions now, and it was September still. Guess October when this goes out, but that's kind of that's going to create the mentality of like loser mentality, I suppose. And it's probably you kind of be needing like out with derbies, maybe like a point against Celtic was good, but I think you'd be kind of looking for that big result again to sort of make things positive, because I think they've been building up that positivity, and it's sort of everything they built towards last season. It's kind of like it turned on the last game, or I guess it turned on the cup, like Aberdeen getting the guaranteed league football, because you'd be looking at the point of Hibs could have had one eye on European football this weekend, this week, and that could have been the excitement. They could have come in like if they got beat or whatever, it'd still be like, oh, we're still in Europe or whatever. But they've not really got an awful lot going for them at the moment. So I feel like there's probably more pressure on them than there is on us to carry on, because I think we can just sort of keep doing what we're doing. But I just don't quite know what to expect from them, because we're a bit of a different animal from what we were last season, when they obviously got the better of us, but at the same time, it was never that electrifying against us, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, definitely. And that perfectly segues into us. And what do you think we're going to do? Because we're at home. There is talks and still discussions at all times pretty much about how is Devlin and Benny a partnership that works well enough for what we want, and for audio listeners with quotation marks, want to do. However, with McInnes's style, and he said playing with 2 wide men and 2 strikers, it means that you're going to lose the ball in transition. And there's probably no 2 better players in the league at winning the ball back in transition than Benny and Devlin. So you kind of can play a 2-man midfield, and it's almost as if you've got 3. But that's only if both of them are on it, and we all know that Benny and Devlin can have games where they're just not on it. Harry Milne has played at right mid for the last 2 games, and especially the first game that he did it, you look and go, well, that's a far harder test, as you're saying, than Hibs at home. However, with most likely Hibs playing a back 3/5 with the Caddens at wing back, does it work having 2? Because they're maybe going to try and flood the middle of the park. I was about to ask, what would you do? What do you think McInnes will do? Do you think he'll stick with the exact same team that's played the last 2 games, or do you think he will change it?
I think he might change it. I just think the danger with, you almost want to keep. I mean, it's hard, because if it's not broke, sort of don't fix it. But at the same time, you kind of want to keep that freshness and that sort of. You want to keep players kind of coming in and just having that just sort of not I guess not reverting to the sort of the one sort of one trick pony type thing. I'm not saying that we have been that way, but I think it's odd that we've started 2 games with the same team. It'd be very odd if we start 3 games like that. And I feel like, I don't know. I think there's benefits to be found, but at the same time, it's like I think there might be 1 or 2 changes, but I don't it's really hard to know, isn't it? I don't quite know how to I've dwelled too long on that question, but yeah, basically, fuck knows, Daniel, is what I'm trying to say there.
That is very fair, especially with McInnes, because as you say, it was weird to see McInnes, of all people, pick the same team twice, because not only has he not done that, he was getting half time and making 3 subs each week when it wasn't working. So you see him just kind of go, yep, I back what I did last time. Was very strange, but all cards on the table. What is your prediction for this Saturday?
4-1 Hearts.
Oh, that is such a bit. That is the single boldest prediction we have ever had for a derby on this show.
To be honest, like I said, we've got goals all over the pitch. It wouldn't shock if Hibs get an early goal or whatever. Fine, good luck. But I'm like, if we're going to sort of draw comparisons to sort of 2005 season, all that kind of thing, when things are looking good, I'm like, you've got to go gung ho against Hibs, because we've got to putting on a show, and I think it's, all things considered, we went 3 up against Falkirk. We kind of probably, from what I've gathered, put off the gas a little bit, and we're kind of changing things. Where I think if we go at it, then it's it's a live TV game as well, Tynecastle on the lights, etc. And I feel like it's there for us to give them a doing.
Admittedly, you mentioned 0506. Funnily enough, the first game we lost that season was at home to Hibs, but after we just sacked Burley. So I hope you're for that. True, exactly. We've not had a maniac making mad decisions. I hope you're right. I very much hope you're right. There is a part of me that can see a 0-0 after all this hype going into it with 2 teams. I think we've scored 15 goals. We're far and away the top goal scorers in the league, but Hibs have also scored 11. So we're 2 of the most high scoring teams. It would be the most Edinburgh Derby thing ever to finish 0-0. But with the start that we've had, I'm going to say we're winning. I'm going to say a 2-1 nicked victory. But next scoreline, I agree with you in terms of, I do think we are going to do well. This would be the most surprised in years I would be if we actually lost. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if we did draw, just because that can happen. 2 teams can cancel each other out. But this is the most confident I've felt in ages that we won't lose. So I can't wait for this to be clipped up by Hibs Podcast as we're 3-0 down in the 80th minute and they're all laughing at us. So I hope you're ready for that and your mentions. I mean, your mentions must be the most insane place ever, considering the anger you bring from folk. But I think that would go a level above.
It's been, like, even today, like, there was one, who's the Celtic fan that said something about, like, tin pot, because Hearts are released in a Hummel script in 2005.
Aye.
And I went, like, it's just like, blah, 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 something about, like, I'd rather celebrate a cup. Like, it's nice that at least you can remember the cup wins, whereas if you're Celtic, you're just mourning because you got beat by a team from Kazakhstan or something like that. And then somebody went, like, a Celtic fan just went, both your part are shite. I'm like, why engage? Like, if you're not even on a side, you're just like, what are you doing? Like, picking a fight for both of us. And to be fair, maybe they had a point, but I'm getting abusive when somebody's like, you're not wrong, but you're a prick.
What are you meant to do in that situation? You're fucked.
Yeah.
Well, we will not get any abuse from you being on the show. Hopefully it's just, whenever you're on, folk love you more than me and Adam. So maybe you're just going to be the new permanent host. Who knows? But let's put it all in the quiz. If you can get 5 out of 5, you can replace Adam as the permanent host. He's not involved in this decision making, but he's in Canada, so there's nothing he can currently do until he listens to this.
I also have a new baby and a new Edinburgh show to write, so I think that the likelihood of me being on this every week is fairly slim, when all I have so far is bullet points out of order, because I've been writing them at sort of 4 a.m.
Good.
I'm like, this is the funny dad bit, and then I'm waking up the next day like, what has happened? Have I lost my mind? So
that's the best Edinburgh shows. I fully support that decision. So with the quiz, it is the usual. We've got a multiple choice, we've got a true or false, 2 normal questions, and then a who am I. So a reminder, because we have some folk who don't get it, I really always appreciate the people who suggest names, But the caveat has to be that it has to be within the lifetimes of the two people talking. Because we have had some people suggest stuff from the 60s. And it's like, I'm not going to know anybody apart from Tommy Walker. That's it. That's all I know. So, your first question is a normal question. Who was the last player to score for Hearts against Hibs? It's a hard one immediately.
I mean, I tried to sort of forget about quite a lot of last season.
Yeah, sorry, bring it back up.
Yeah. I can't even remember.
I can tell you the game if you want.
Yeah, well, yeah.
A 2-1 loss at Easter Road in March. We opened the scoring as well. 9 minutes.
I'm not going to get this right. I bet this bit's going to be great listening for people. People like shouting, like, this is the answer, this is the answer.
Welcome to every week.
Yeah. Like Forrest? I don't know.
Oh, it's a good guess because he got the assist.
Right.
Forrest got the assist for George Grant.
But did Forrest? Did he not get a goal at one point? And I think we ended up losing or drawing.
We drew. He scored an absolute wonder goal from like 25 yards, but it finished 1-1.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, Alan Forrest gets the pass for George Grant in a 2-1 loss, and now he's at Salford. Question number 2. Well,
the other week. I thought that's maybe been mentioned.
That is very true. Your daughter will be relieved to hear that her dad will be in her life regularly because you've now not got 5 out of 5, so you're not replacing Adam.
Imagine that. Imagine, yeah, sorry, like, where's dad? Is like, oh, he's on Path to Paisley again. He's doing the Instagram live he kept swearing about.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, it'll be justified. Question 2 is your multiple choice. Hearts have already won 5 games in the league this season. How long did it take last season for that to happen? Was it the 22nd of December, the 29th of December, the 2nd of January, or the 9th of January?
29th of December.
You're 1 point off. It's the 2nd of January against Motherwell. When Critchley did a big... I
was at the St Johnstone game when we...
Yeah, I was at that as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
no. Yeah, so it took us until January to win the same amount of games it has taken us to do in 6 league games. Last season was insane. True or false? After his goal at the weekend, Laurent Shanklin now has 100 goal contributions for Hearts.
True.
Correct. True. 75 goals, 25 assists in 147 games. He's quite good. Just
right.
Ridiculous.
Not good enough to get in the Scotland team.
No, not at all. Lyndon Dykes takes that place.
Yep.
And your last question before the Who Am I? Alexander Swallow became the first Hearts goalkeeper to keep consecutive clean sheets in his first 2 games since who? I do have multiple choices if you want them.
At what cost?
Just it'll annoy Adam that I give you extra clues that he doesn't.
What a shame. I mean, he did call like on the last podcast. He was like, "Oh, not him."
Yeah.
Multiple choice.
We have the man you mentioned earlier, John McLaughlin.
Yeah.
We have Yanis Balo. We have Tepe Moilanen or Antti Niemi.
Tepe, I'm going to say.
You've got it right. Well done.
Yeah.
How did you know that? Or was it just a complete
guess? Because it's, of those ones, it's a bit mental. So
I thought
it's a weird one. It's a weird one to pluck out, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. I thought of a great goalie in Antti Niemi, a pretty good goalie in McLaughlin, and then I just thought Balloch is like similar to Moylan, and where it's just like, oh yeah, mind him kind of thing. But yeah. So it's been that.
Balloch, the issue with Balloch is he was too close to Callow when Callow was good, like as well, and it was sort of like it was kind of like he was fine, but I
should have put Kello as one of the options. But you did very well. You got half points, 2 out of 4. Did very, very well. On to your Who Am I? But in fairness, you did say you got rid of all thoughts of last season, and they were the 2 last season questions that you got wrong. So it's fine. Yeah. Right, your Who Am I? I have played in England, Scotland, and Sweden. I've won a trophy at Hearts. Whilst at another club in Scotland, I was part of one of the most successful teams in that club's history. I have coached at Hibs when I retired. And I have a brother that was for 2 years in Biker Grove. Who am I? Let me get this man's Wikipedia page up.
So he's coached at Hibs?
Yes. So I've coached at youth level at Hibs when I retired. So you've got 2 questions. You can ask me anything you want.
Was it the 2006 Scottish Cup?
It was not.
Shit. Okay. Right. Can you run that through? Can you run me through it again?
Of course, can. I've played in England, Scotland, and Sweden. Mm-hmm. I've won a trophy whilst at Hearts. Whilst at another club in Scotland, I was part of one of the most successful teams in that club's history. I've coached at youth level at Hibs when I retired. And I have a brother that for 2 years was in Biker Grove.
I need yes or no question I can ask. Wait, is that
no? You can ask. No, it doesn't. 1, that doesn't count as a question. And 2, no, you can ask anything. You can ask me to name position, nationality, date of birth, all the teams he's played for, what was the success, and all that. You just can't ask me his initials. Apart from that, you can ask me anything else.
Right. What? I don't want to ask all the clubs he's been like. Okay, so which English and which other Scottish club was he at?
So, in England, he played for Newcastle, Blackburn, and Huddersfield. And in Scotland, he played for Hearts, Livingston, Dunfermline, East Fife, and Cowdenbeath. He also, in England, played for Bradford and Plymouth. After us. Oh, and Portsmouth. He went on loan from us to Portsmouth.
Oh, no.
You've basically... You know what? I'm giving you this, because there's only now one other team. The one
Oh, no, wait, have I got it?
I'll give you them in order, if you want them in order.
When you... no, I'm not gonna. No, because I was gonna say Robertson, but then it was like actually because Livingston and Newcastle. That's where I was basing that off.
I'll give you them in order because you basically asked that, so I'll give you them in order. He started his career at Newcastle, then Blackburn, then Huddersfield. We sign him in March of a certain year to then play for us. Whilst at us, he goes on loan to Portsmouth. Then he leaves us for Bradford, then Livingston, then Plymouth, Dunfermline, Livingston again, Östersund in Sweden, East Fife, Östersund again, and Cowdenbeath. By the way, I'm also happy for you to have another question because you thought it was yes or no questions. So that first question you asked was basically yes or no. I'm happy to give you one other question.
Adam will be choking on his maple syrup.
It's the main reason I'm happy to give you another question.
Right. Which year did he win the... Did you say silverware, or was it a Scottish Cup?
Won the Scottish Cup.
Won the Scottish Cup. Okay, which year did he win the Scottish Cup for us?
1997, 1998.
I was going to say Neil Poynton.
Oh, it's a good guess, but it's not Neil Poynton. I'm sorry to break your heart there, even with the additional question. No, the correct answer is Lee Makel.
Do you know, annoyingly, that was in my head, but then I was getting him and what's his name, Hamill mixed up. I couldn't know that.
Yeah.
I forgot Lee Makel had won a couple of hearts.
Well, that's the thing. He signed in March '98. And
Yeah.
then literally 2 months later.
Was he in the squad?
Well, it says on Wikipedia, honours, Heart of Midlothian, Scottish Cup, 1997, 1998.
Right, Stuart's inquiry for this.
Right, go for it. I will also explain the clues whilst you do that. So I've played in England, Scotland, and Sweden. We explained that. I've won a trophy at Hearts. Citation needed. Whilst at another club in Scotland, I was part of one of the most successful teams in that club history. It was when he was at Livingston. He returned to Scotland in December 2001 with Livingston, helping them with a third place finish in their first Premier League season and a place in the UEFA Cup. He was also part of the team that won the League Cup in 2004. So
he wasn't in the squad. He wasn't in the squad.
Right, well, Wikipedia, what are he doing? Because you've just fucked Richard Cobb at a point.
I mean, neither was Neil Poynton.
Okay, fair enough.
I've seen his racist videos on the cup. He must have been there. He was maybe just sat in the stand.
Maybe he was. Yeah. And then the final clue was he was born in Sunderland, and his younger brother Gavin was a child actor appearing as Rob in Biker Grove from 1996 to 1998. So, who's really more famous?
Who knew or cares? That's
exactly. Anyway. That is the exact thing. So, you did decently well. You got within a person who was not in the squad, much like Lee Makel. So,
I got more points than Aberdeen.
Yeah, exactly. And that is that's the real quiz. So, massive thank you to everyone who has listened. Richard, massive thank you for coming on. Please plug yourself, although I imagine everybody knows where to get you because they've seen your tweets shared by non-accounts that are you taking all the clicks away from you.
Are they?
They've done it on Instagram and stuff like that in the past, haven't they? Your Harry Potter Quidditch tweet got a lot. That got nicked a lot.
The one that did better was the one. Did I have one about who was the? God, I'm rough for names today. I think it was the drive yesterday up from.
That's fair.
The blonde Hearts left back was Alex Cochrane.
Yeah, Cochrane. With Dan Byrne.
Yeah, I said I can't remember something about my dog or something like that. Just jumping. That actually did better than the Harry Potter tweet, but you know who really cares now. I think the problem with that is I think I'm going to come off Twitter again because it's just not really bringing me any happiness, and or ticket sales really. Actually, more importantly, no ticket sales from Twitter, just pure hatred. So Instagram onwards is the
Perfect. Is it still that Richard Cobb on Instagram as well?
At the Richard Cobb on Instagram.
Perfect. Well, we are at Perth to Paisley on all forms of social media. If you have enjoyed this episode, please let us know by leaving us a podcast review on whatever platform you do. It massively helps. If you've been watching us on YouTube and staring at that massive dog that is behind Richard's head the entire time and you've enjoyed it, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. perthtopaisley@gmail.com if you want to fire us over an email for anything that you want. We will be back next week. Richard showing.
These are my grandma's curtains as well, by the way. So don't tag them off. Also, sorry to cut you off your end.
Fine.
Whatever you do the sort of thing that the guy from Kevin from Grand Designs does. Just this whole he's standing at the end, and I just I'm like, actually, I've got more stuff to plug. This
incredible
as well. If you can. For audio listeners, to commemorate the royal wedding of Prince William and Kate Middleton on Friday, April 29th, 2011. So I brought that cup on me today. I probably brought it at some point in the past.
I think every time you've been on the show.
I've had it. No, I think at one point I was plugging some laugh, but that's my coffee cup now. So Sorry, yeah, what you were saying? Yeah, you're back next week or something. I don't know. Not
What
with
was
me.
the plug for that? Was the plug for the royal wedding that happened a decade and a half ago?
No, it's more so for the fact that Hearts have done it. Like Hearts have, as
Fair
much as
enough.
we all love Hearts, Hearts have still made a royal wedding mug that, yeah,
Yeah.
Royals aren't looking so good anymore. Anyway,
They're not. They're not at all. But we'll be back and we're looking good. And hopefully we'll be looking good after the derby. I'll be back next week with another guest. Richard will inevitably be back on again because he is our most regular guest and by far our most popular guest. It is just being pushed for you to replace at some point. So when she's off to school, then you've got more free time.
I'll wait. Hold on a second. You've got one guest on next week, right?
Yep.
I'll come on as well.
Okay, fair enough. Right, we'll do that. Big derby round table.
I'll find the Zoom link somewhere.
Right,
and I'll
perfect.
jump on.
Amazing. Well, it's going to be. I really hope we win now because it's going to be the most depressing podcast of all time if we don't. But until then, we'll see you next time. Bye bye.